Good morning and greetings. This is your friendly neighborhood armchair philosopher, Fragments of Memory. Now, on YouTube, I checked out a video by one Simone56 called Rome is Burning, the Black Community is Done. Well, watching the video, she gives a little background about her commentary here. Now, according to her, she had an exchange with somebody via social media. I'm not sure if it's YouTube or some other social media outlet, but basically she said, let's stop playing sister soldier for every cause when a black man gets in trouble, because she felt the situation wasn't being reciprocated, where black men weren't coming to the rescue or caping for black women. And of course, some guy on social media apparently took umbrage with what she said, so he said she should be shunned and banned from the black community. And of course, she scoffed and said, "What community? Go ahead, shun me from the community. We don't have a community." Now, here's how I feel about that whole little exchange. Simone56, yes, I will agree that she's correct. There is not a black community. I think another YouTuber said we're more of a black collective than a black community. I don't know who, I'm not sure which, but you get my idea. Anyway, so on that point I agree. Now where I disagree is she's saying black men don't stand up for black women. This I disagree with respectfully, of course, because I think black men do stand up for black women. It may not always be publicized, it may not always be pushed to the forefront, but I myself personally have been in situations where I see many black men stand up for a sister if she's in trouble. So I don't know where you've been or what you've seen, but I've seen evidence to the contrary. I notice a lot of her commentary comes off very misandrist, and misandry just means hatred of men. So it's very anti-male, it's very men can do no right. Men are just these horrible demonic creatures, according to Simone56. Her commentary was very raw, and I saw glimmers and sparks of truth in her commentary. And for example, she spoke of blacks becoming a permanent underclass. This is something I'm starting to see a trend in. I see the fact that black people in this country, we're being pushed away via gentrification, i.e. white land developers or other groups are coming into neighborhoods, setting up businesses, setting up their own little communities, and are thriving, while we're being pushed to the outskirts, maybe poorer neighborhoods, or into straight homelessness. So I see that, and I do see that unless we make the necessary changes, we're going to get hit super hard, like we already are. Now, she got into the whole commentary about how black men abandoning their children, well, let me rewind a little bit. She made a comment about how black men blame black women for raising these men that can't function in the world. And of course, she claps back with, but black men are also abandoning their children. And to me, that gets into the chicken or the egg question, i.e., are black men bad because black women had to raise them by themselves, raise the children by herself, and in so doing, a woman can only show a young man so much, that a man has to show a young man how to be a man. But if the man that left may have been through a similar situation where the dad wasn't in the home, so he's just repeating the cycle. And her whole thing is, if black men hadn't controlled their penises, then we wouldn't be in this trouble. And I come back with, this is true, but black women have also allowed those same black men access to their bodies. So on this one, it takes two to tango sort of thing. It's not a one party more responsible than the other. On this, there's enough blame to go around. She brought up that black men don't control the communities or the areas in which they live. It's in shambles. And the way she was wording it, she tried to make it seem as though it was all on black men and it's black men's fault. And we're the one, we're supposed to be the leaders, and we've led the black community into shambles. And she goes into an example. There's a tragic story she shared about some gangbangers was put a hit out on a 3-year-old child in Chicago. She talked about the 1 in 5 HIV epidemics in Atlanta, more so than the third world nations. Now, here's where she keeps wanting to gloss over or try to dismiss. That is, black people, as far as the United States is concerned, we have been miseducated, disenfranchised, unemployed, underemployed. And collectively, we have seen dysfunction as the norm. So it becomes the norm. She also forgets to mention slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, black code. So realize that other groups can come into the United States and make a living and make something of themselves. But at the same time, they have a land, their own language, their own culture, their own history. When black people were enslaved, we were forced to take the religion of the person who enslaved us, the names of the person who enslaved us, the language of the people who enslaved us. So we are operating under that paradigm and under that psychology. I'm not saying things can't be fixed, but recognize where you're at and where you came from too. She sort of wants to gloss over it or dismiss it. And I can see where she's frustrated and angry at the state of the black community. And I could hear the rage and just the pain in her voice. And unfortunately in the black community, because of those factors that have happened, we keep perpetuating the cycle. So white people and other groups have had somewhat of a head start than us. And I also feel that there's too much blame game inside of the so-called black community, or rather the black collective. White supremacy is still a factor, and there are Willie Lynch tactics. Pit the light against the dark, the old against the young, etc., etc. And then, of course, as a result of all this confusion and these shenanigans, I'll use the word shenanigans, many black men don't possess the skills to maneuver through the society or to become patriarchs or to run the show, so to speak. We don't have any structures or systems in place to benefit anybody or to punish anyone. Sergeant Willie P. talks a lot about that. We don't have any networks or structures or resources in which to reward or punish anybody. Everybody's an individual. Everybody's a rogue agent. And many black people just aren't collectively minded. We're too individualistic. So if we are going to do something, we do have to be collective, drop our guards, drop our egos. Everybody's an individual. That's the tragic part about it. Now, she even recommended to black women, have your children removed from the area. Well, what if among those children you're probably going to have some sons, right? So what about the boys? Like right now we're watching the girls progress, and that's good. Educating the women, making sure women get into the STEMs and the arts and all that. But we left the boys behind. We kind of left them to chance, and we've done nothing to supplement that. So first, how are you going to get the capital to move out of the neighborhood, ladies and gents? And then where are you going to go where you're going to be accepted? Just saying. So she mentions out-of-wedlock births and single motherhood. And again, this is not to place blame on the sisters. Just realize that a number has been done on black people collectively, and our world has been super rocked many times. And I will say that there is enough blame to go around on both sides as far as the condition of the black community. And shoot, some to white supremacy and the structures and systems put in play to work against us. Now, I will say that too many times men aren't willing to put skin in the game. Shout out to Brett McKay of The Art of Manliness. Men aren't willing to strip or retire. We're very much less risk averse. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to put nothing in it. So yeah, I will agree that sits with us. We didn't cause the issues because ultimately we all were born into it. If you weren't born pre-1600s, you were born into it already. So you already are getting the residual effects. We have inherited this, and I do think that the rebuilding or setting up a structure for the black community is a daunting and overwhelming task. So a lot of us are afraid to step out, step up, because, there's so much to do, and it seems like there's so little time. Well, that's my 2 cents. Be easy like Sunday morning. Peace.